What's up, y'all? It's Shuffle, and this is some pretty wild news to wake up to. And Behavior Interactive, the Dead by Daylight parent company or whatever, has bought Red Hook Studios, our beloved Darkest Dungeon. A lot of people are nervous, understandably so. We go through the small announcement here, and then there's an article that goes with it, and we'll take a look at that. So, starting off with the tweet. The way is lit. The path is clear. Today we're ecstatic to announce our acquisition of Red Hook Studios. Darkest Dungeon has long been a series we've admired, enjoyed, and maybe even lost a little sleep over as fans. Okay, so this part's not true. They didn't lose sleep over it. I'm sure they admired it. I'm sure some enjoyed it, but probably not this. The opportunity to welcome Red Hook as a fully independent studio under the Behavior banner is nothing short of a thrill. We look forward to supporting Red Hook as they continue to do what they do best. Put your sanity to the test. That rhymes. Was that on purpose? I don't know. Okay, so they said fully independent. You can go through this entire thread and people are just doom posting. So there's that. But this article is an interesting thing that goes alongside it, so this is from Game Developer. I'll post it with the video. At a glance, Behavior Interactive purchases Red Hook days after shutting down Midwinter Entertainment and canceling whatever Project T is. Red Hook Studios will now make Darkest Dungeon under their banner. The transaction happened in parallel to Behavior's closures and layoffs as part of a strategy shift for the publisher. After a year of laying off devs, Behavior Interactive is bringing some new ones to the fold. The Dead by Daylight developer / publisher announced today that acquiring Red Hook Studios, or that it is acquiring them, the company behind Darkest Dungeon and DD2. Incredibly rare for a game studio to announce an acquisition like this so soon after a year of layoffs and studio closures. I don't even know if it's incredibly rare or just unheard of. Who knows? So rare, in fact, that I guess they have an example. So the only comparable example feels like Activision Blizzard's establishment of the Polish game studio Elsewhere in May 2024, while parent company Microsoft axed jobs across the company. Then they axe Hi-Fi Rush, rip in pieces. The news may be bittersweet for plenty of game dev community. Or of the game dev community. On the one hand, the Red Hook acquisition looks to be a coup for both companies. A coup? Like a coup d'etat? For both? I don't know if anyone's overthrowing Behavior, but on the other hand, so many other developers lost work, and entire studios closed down on the road here. Yes, my knowledge of French escapes me. Anyway. In an interview with game dev Red Hook Studios co-founders Tyler Sigmund and Chris Barassa, joined by Behavior Interactive CEO Remy Racine, I don't know if that's how you say it, but that's how I'm saying it, explained why both parties pursued this transaction. Something important to note. Don't totally quote me on this. I'm like 99% certain Tyler has an MBA, so he's got a master's business degree. So I assume that if something like this happened, he did his thorough work and risk assessment and all that, which is why I'm not as worried as other people may be. For Red Hook, it was a chance for stability that would fuel bigger and loftier dreams, and according to Racine, it's a move that helps Behavior reduce risk as it finalizes its ongoing strategy shift. So this makes it sound like this is why Midwinter got axed, was because they're just going in this other direction. They're like, we're gonna trim these other things off, and I'm not trying to, make light of it or something. It's obviously horrible when stuff like this happens, but they said we're going this way, and to go this way we need to take these things and not these things. Reconciling Behavior's studio closure and layoffs with a new acquisition. Very good job by Bryant here to actually freaking ask about it. So, doing good journalism right now. For Behavior, it seems this was the culmination of a shift in strategy, taking away from publishing games like Islands of Insight into a future where it solely focuses on the horror genre. The shift came with internal restructuring, driving the layoffs that took place earlier in the year. Behavior Interactive Chief Product and Technical Officer Stephen Mulrooney told Game Developer that during the process, the company determined that it had too many employees to support that shift, and that some of the affected workers didn't have the skills needed to support the new direction. Sure, some executives also needed some new cars. So you see where the sacrifices have to be made. As for the fate of Midwinter Entertainment, Racine repeated the explanation given by Behavior last week, which was that Project T, the game Midwinter was working on, didn't have a chance of succeeding in today's markets. He said that canceling the game meant there was no other work for the studio as a whole to take on. I mean, as it's written, makes sense. Although it makes sense if they were contracted. And it's like, okay, well, this isn't going to work out. We're going to buy out the contract. You leave. They bought the studio. It's a bit different. You can move those people to other things. And they said that they're not as skilled for what they need, which who the hell knows what that means. Let's see. I like how I say these things before reading the next line, and then the next line confirms what I'm trying to think about. Workers at Midwinter were offered relocation opportunities for matching roles at Behavior's Canadian offices. If this is true, I mean, they did what they were supposed to. Some might wonder if Racine and Behavior Management knew the Red Hook acquisition was impending. Why not hold on to this team to support Red Hook in the future? Okay, I'm not speaking for Red Hook, but they are a very close-knit studio from what I can tell. And I don't think they want too many, hands on the product. They don't want too many cooks in the kitchen. I remember when I interviewed them last year, they even lamented that when they grew the studio and they hired more people, they had to kind of step back and do other stuff. And they still like to be hands-on. They don't want to grow the studio to this massive thing where they're just reading CC email chains all day. They want to do stuff. They want to be involved, which is good. This is a little bit tactless. I don't know what the proper word is, but the transactions today, Midwinter is yesterday. That's not really how you want to phrase something that, impacts livelihoods, but whatever. Racine replied, explaining that the timing of both decisions didn't offer a window for the Midwinter team to start supporting developers at Red Hook. Okay, so the author asked the question that answered it. So even then, yeah, the timing decision didn't offer a window for Midwinter to support Red Hook. I just don't think it would have worked out. I'm not saying that Red Hook told them to, fire Midwinter, but I'm pretty sure Red Hook was just what we're doing is working. Don't mess with what we're doing, which is what most people want. So Behavior would have had to keep the studio running for a year or more without a dedicated project before an opportunity to bring the two teams together could have emerged. Is this... are we getting some insight here? For a year or more. So is DD2 going to go on for... I mean, obviously another year for sure, because it's got stuff coming out, but... Or more? So, what would this have been? So, a couple years until they're done with DD2, then they can put them together? That would have been interesting. And this makes sense, though. Red Hook has been on DD2 since, I would assume, 2019 at this point. So, it's been a while. Behavior's planned publishing shift sent the company looking for what Racine called great horror IPs, which is what brought it and Red Hook Studios together around March of this year. We want to make horror gaming bigger, Mulrooney said. He expressed excitement about Red Hook Studios' experience with early access development, which may indicate Behavior is planning to explore similar territory with its future games. Red Hook has done very extensive early access runs for both of their games so far. It's not just Behavior that wants to go bigger and bolder with the blood-soaked genre. Barassa, what am I from Boston? Barassa? No. Barassa and Sigmund told game developer that they wanted Behavior's backing to make Darkest Dungeon an even bigger franchise. Which means they're sticking with Darkest Dungeon as a franchise. So I don't know if we're getting spin-offs or... I mean, obviously content, but like spin-offs, maybe crossovers into DVD, which people have been wanting for a while. You know, someone brought up that I joked about Shambler being a killer in DVD. Might not be, like, this was a while ago, so might not be that unheard of. But yeah. Red Oak Studio says, acquisition provides stability for studio planning. This is true. Hearing about people losing their jobs is never pleasant, Barassa said when asked about how he and Sigmund felt watching the layoffs and closures take place as the deal proceeded. But it was the stability that so many of their peers lacked that made them pursue it anyway. He felt like there was a chance to build a strong runway for a future title and provide stability. So maybe a future Darkest Dungeon, because they're talking about expanding the franchise. So it looks like we might get another Darkest Dungeon game. You know, spin-off or what? Who knows? But yeah, so they said it's going to provide stability. He and Sigmund seemed eager to stress that this was not a purchase of last resort for the company. And here's Tyler, businessman, coming in with the latter co-founder telling us that the company wasn't actively shopping around when they were approached earlier this year. This is because, I don't know if they say it in this article, or if it was somewhere else, but Darkest Dungeon 2 has been profitable. They didn't need... They didn't go looking for Behavior like they said here. Like they said actively not shopping around. Behavior came to them. Right, so... Darkest Dungeon sitting there, making DLCs, making content, doing updates, having all this success, making plushies that are very sick and awesome. The Shambler one's coming soon if you haven't seen it. And they're doing fine. And then Behavior comes in and is like, hey, we need some more peeps. We need some more talents. You want to jump on board? And it's for stability. It's the same reason I assume that they did the Epic Games early access deal, which Epic left the pile of money on the table and left the room. And it worked out. We're hoping that Behavior is going to leave some money on the table, have their name flashed when the game starts up, and then leave the freaking room. Right? Because we've seen a lot of instances in game devs where the big parent publisher comes in and just makes some really stupid calls and ruins a game. And then we've seen games where the publisher was never the issue, like Destiny, where they said, oh, Activision was so horrible, it'll get better when Activision's gone, and then Destiny just got worse, you know, over time. Not saying it's not a fun game, not saying the players can't enjoy it, I'm just saying that Bungie is not my favorite company to think about. But yeah. She said it was a huge relief to tell their employees about the deal, as it was a rare moment where they couldn't be transparent with the Red Hook team about the company's future thanks to regulatory restrictions that come with acquisitions. They expressed frustration at how the game industry contraction of the last 2 years has ravaged studios they grew alongside in the 2010s. Barassa name-dropped Armello developer League of Geeks as being one of the peer studios that has faced the greatest impacts. Red Oak has stayed profitable during this time period. We feel fortunate enough to have threaded that needle, said Barassa. But Sigmund explained being an independent studio left him and his co-founder weighing multiple options for what to do now that Darkest Dungeon 2 was out the door. Taking the deal would help narrow those options, and hopefully propel the studio to chase its most ambitious ideas. What this does is set a clear path for the next X years, he said. The pair weren't eager to give up what those ambitions entail, but when Barassa raised the idea of making Darkest Dungeon a franchise as big as Dragon Age, it helped put things in perspective, and that is frickin' wild. Like that, I mean, it's kind of just hit me like, you know, the Darkest Dungeon community can just blow the hell up. Like that could be crazy. That could absolutely be crazy. So I guess we'll see. And I'm not entirely even worried if Behavior shut down Red Hook, because they have, like, everyone there is super talented and they already work together. So, like, even if that happens, the unthinkable happens and they get relocated, I mean, they still get to do stuff, you know. And they already, like, Chris has tons of experience, obviously, drawing horror stuff, great concept artist. So, a lot of people will survive. But we don't want that to happen, of course. What's the future for Behavior and Red Hook? While Red Hook supports Darkest Dungeon 2, starts preparing for its grand vision with little to no interference from Behavior, apparently. Sigmund said the publisher doesn't want to change how we make games. Good news. What can we expect from Behavior? The answer is, of course, horror games, and apparently publishing even more horror games for the developers, or from external developers. Okay. And let's see. Is there anything else that we care about here? Behavior and Red Hook, let's see. Contrast to many other layoffs where companies watch their coffers empty, declining sales, project canceled by partners. Yeah, Behavior and Red Hook have stayed command in their fates, being proactive instead of reactive in time of turmoil. Okay. They're saying that buying Red Hook is reducing risk because they're getting an indie studio that knows what the hell it's doing, not that Midwinter didn't. I'm just saying that they're getting a studio with a proven track record. They've done... Red Hook's been making games for about 10 years now. Like, the first Darkest Dungeon hit early access, I believe, in 2014. Maybe 2015, but... yeah, so it's been around for a while. So they obviously know what they're doing. And there are a lot of ways this can go right. You know, there's the chance of, like, you know, Red Hook just, everything works out, they get the money they need, they get the hands-off stuff that they want, and they just do great things. You know, obviously that's an ideal outcome. The other thing is some cool Dead by Daylight crossover possibilities, you know, like Shambler is a killer, that would be kind of cool. Ancestor, narrator, if that's even a thing that's possible, I don't know. And then the other is, like, you know, this will bring in more players to Darkest Dungeon, which, it'd be nice to see our community grow. I like, you know, what the DD community is now as a whole, but I also definitely wouldn't mind some more, just some more voices in the room, some more people thinking, more people, you know, just chatting, stuff like that. So it's very exciting in a lot of ways, but it's also odd, or definitely terrifying too, because we see things like the Hopoo Risk of Rain route with Gearbox, where Hopoo did great things. Obviously weren't perfect. Looking at you, tons of green items that sucked ass for many years. Artie's flamethrower. But then they sold the IP to Gearbox, and Gearbox just craps the bed with the first DLC they make. So we'll see. Time will tell. Definitely gonna be following this. Let me know what you're thinking about it down below. I'm sure there are a lot of concerns, but if you have positivity, throw it in there too. Alright, so thanks for watching. See you next time.